What's an ADU? What does it stand for? And what's so big about it? And why is there a big buzz about it in California real estate? I'll answer all of that in this episode right after this. Welcome back. My name is Dale Corpus. I'm a realtor in the Tri-Valley area in the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area, and I post videos every Friday about all things real estate. So what is an ADU? An ADU is an acronym. It stands for Accessory Dwelling Unit. It may also be referred to as a granny flat. I've also heard them referenced as auxiliary dwelling units, but essentially what it is it's a secondary unit that's placed on the same lot as a single family residence. So generally speaking, when single families are zoned, they are only zoned for one house on one lot, so it's considered R1. And you could only have that single house on the lot. And a few years ago, California passed a law that allowed you to now build these secondary units on the same plot of land, and they are considered ADUs. Now, keep in mind that while the state allows them, each county has its own restrictions on its city, actually more specifically has restrictions on it, the sizes, what's permitted, what's not permitted, etc. So these need to be permitted, right? So you can't just go out and get the specifications online, which I have actually seen done, and have these built and be considered a legal ADU. They need to be permitted through the city, which means that you need to pull a permit, and then there are certain specifications with regards to building them that need to be met in order to actually qualify as a permitted ADU or a granny flat. And so the reason these are so popular, for one, is because we have such a huge inventory issue, housing shortage in the state of California to begin with. So there's not a lot of available property out there. So ADUs are popular for that reason. They help solve that issue. But more specifically, the cost, right? The cost of living due to inflation and other things has increased so much over the last 10, 15 years in California that people are getting priced out of a property to start with. The rental market can be just as crazy and harsh as the home buying market. Anyway, what this new law does is it allows you to build secondary units on your property. And now keep in mind, these can be detached or attached, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a detached property in the back of the home. It could be an attached property to the existing structure, and it allows for people to live in them, It could be a mother-in-law suite. The question often comes up as well is, can they be rented out? And the answer is yes, depending again on the city codes. But the idea is, yes, they can be a secondary unit on the property that can be rented out. And in a lot of cases, they have separate entrances to these properties. Well, actually, in all cases, an ADU will have a separate entrance to the property where you won't have to go through the main existing house in order to get there, whether it's a side to the backyard or however you access it. There's a separate entrance to those properties. And also keep in mind, they also have bathrooms and kitchens, right? So it's a full livable unit where you wouldn't need to necessarily access the main structure of the property. And that's what a true ADU is. And so, over, I would say, the last 2 to 3 years, they become more and more popular because not only can you rent them out, but they can actually increase the value of your property in most cases. So you get depreciation and cash flow. So that's yet another question that comes up is, do these actually increase the value of your property? And I would say absolutely. Assuming that construction is done, with them being well built, with good craftsmanship, and that they're permitted, yes, absolutely. It can add value to your property because, again, not only Could it be a secondary unit for a kid to live in once they, pass a certain age, another family member, or in some cases, they could be rented out or used as in a mother-in-law suite. So that's why they're super popular, especially locally here in the San Francisco Bay Area, in cities like San Jose, Oakland, San Francisco, and even in the Tri-Valley, San Ramon, Livermore, Castro Valley. You see people looking for secondary unit on their properties, and there's not a lot out there. But what we're starting to see more and more is that more are actually being built. And I would say the last question that comes up more often is, how much does it cost to build these things? If you look online and you do the research, you will see what I see. Somewhere around $100,000 to build a separate ADU, like a detached ADU, where if it's attached to the existing structure, they can be done for less. But, in talking to different contractors, it sounds to me, the cost is probably about half of that to build one. So if you're interested in ADUs, I highly advise you to check the codes for the city to see what the specifications are. They have to be under a certain size. You can't just build this monstrous building in the backyard and call it an ADU. There's a limit to how big you can actually make it, and clearly certain specifications need to be met in order to qualify as an ADU. And then there are some California Senate bills that were recently passed as well and signed by Governor Newsom that now allows you to do multiple of these ADUs on properties. So again, what I would tell you to do is to make sure that you check with the city codes and make sure that what you're doing is correct and that you're not having any issues, especially when you're wanting to sell your home. The last thing you want them to do is actually impede the value of your property versus, adding to it. So if you have any additional questions, comment below or reach out to me directly. My contact information is displayed on this screen. And if you found this video helpful, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You may also want to check out my past video on how to find the best mortgage rates in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the link to that video is on the top corner of this screen. Again, I'm Dale Corpus from eXp Realty in San Ramon, California, and I help buyers and sellers throughout the Bay Area and Tri-Valley. And I'll see you on my next video.